Hi everyone. So I am Paridhi, and today we will be interviewing Dr. Aarushi Chopra. She is an endodontist from India, and she got in her first cycle into two schools, Touro and UoP. So she will be sharing her journey with us. Congratulations, Aarushi, on your both your acceptances. Can you just tell us a little about your background first to begin with?
Hi, Paridhi. Thank you for the sweet introduction and thank you so much for congratulating me. To give a brief introduction about myself, I did my dental school from Pacific Dental College and Hospital, Udaipur, and I finished it in 2019. Post that, I decided to pursue Masters in Conservative Dentistry and Endodontics from Mahatma Gandhi Dental College, Jaipur. And after that, somewhere around second year of my master's, I decided that, I really wanted to upgrade the kind of practice that I had, and that would only happen if I moved to the US, like a lot of my friends were at the time. So that's how I decided to come here. And post that, like around, I finished my master's in August of 2023, and in the same month, I moved here. Once I moved to the US, within a week I started shadowing. I was very proactive in terms of how to apply. I really wanted to apply in 2024 cycle, and I know that even August to begin with in 2023 was a little late for me, but that's when I had completed my master's, so I had a free mind to prepare for it. I took help from the study boards to prepare for INBD, and then I targeted to give my exam in January. Then I took like a month or so, a gap of like, 20 days, I would say to be exact, which is when I gave my TOEFL exam. And I got a score of 106 on my TOEFL. And I decided to go ahead and, not crib about it too much that if I had more score or not, because I had heard from a lot of Indian applicants that schools look for a TOEFL score of over 100 and you need to be really good. Decided to just stick to that and I decided to apply. And while I was preparing for my INBD, I was also looking for people who were in the schools, taking their opinions on what could be done, how can I improve my profile, and what kind of letter of recommendations would you expect me to get, who can I approach, and how do I approach them, what are the points that need to be covered. And then around mid of April, around 11th or 12th of April, as I remember, that's when I had all the materials for my application. And yeah, by the end of that same week, I had applied to schools. On the total, I applied to like 21 schools. And yes, that's a lot of money. But it was like if I applied to more schools, I contest for more seats. And I was on an H4 visa. So
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. So, another question I have is that how did you gain US experience? You mentioned shadowing. How did you actually land up with your first shadowing opportunity? Because I have seen people struggle with getting shadowing opportunities. And also, was there a time when you started working as a dental assistant before you applied?
So, to throw some light on how I started shadowing, I would say that even before I had come here, I was looking for dental clinics in and around my area where I was based at. So, I was living in Santa Clara, which is like very close to North San Jose. And I decided to look for clinics that were around me. And even if I wasn't here, I had asked my husband, my friends to, go and approach these clinics on my behalf so that I could go there in person. And when I actually came, I went and met them, and, these people, and you have to see for yourself too that where you want to shadow. You have to forget the fact that whether or not you're masters, whether or not you have your, how many years have lapsed, you have to keep yourself grounded, go and ask for what you need. I think that comes along the way. It's hard in the beginning, but once you realize that it's not just you, there are thousands of people who are doing it, it becomes better. And I think I was very fortunate that the first person I met, I really liked them. I really liked their practice. And they were gracious enough to say that, yes, you can come and shadow me. And it was hardly like 5 minutes driving distance from my home. So that's how I started doing it. I started shadowing them, once or twice weekly, how much ever I could do with, I was still preparing for INBD. So, spending 10 hours was a lot, but that's what I decided to do. And I just, tried to assist them wherever I could. I decided to get my radiation certification, my infection control. And if you are in California, then you also need your California Dental Practice Act and everything that is required for any DA to be working here. So that's what I decided to do until I had my EAD. And I was just creating like a base for myself to be ready. But that once I have my employment authorization, I could just apply for jobs. And, if the opportunity comes, I could just start working as a full-time compensated DA at the same practice where I was shadowing.
Right. And when did your EAD come? And I mean, how long had you been working as a compensated DA?
So I had my EAD a little before I did my INBD in the January of 2024, but I just decided to take a little bit of a pause there because I was still, in the phase of giving my exam in the next 20 days. So I decided to hold for now. And then as soon as I finished my INBD exam, I decided to apply for a job. And I applied through various portals. LinkedIn was also something that I had approached, but Indeed was a better portal. That's what I got to gauge later on. But I got a few calls from Indeed itself, and luckily enough, I got a call from one of the people who was a graduate of University of the Pacific itself, and she was so kind to me, and I did a working interview. A lot of places here make you do a working interview, which is for them to see, how well you adapt to their office. They are not necessarily looking for you to be perfect. They know that you don't know the system here. They very well know it. They just want to know that are you humble enough to learn their ways and are you humble enough to work as a DA? Because just saying that I want to be a DA doesn't really count. You really have to keep yourself grounded to, listen to everyone who's there and has been working, say, for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I had a working interview and I think it just, went well. And that was the first place I went to when it turned into a full-time job. And I really loved the people. I think it was because of their motivation that I made it to UoP.
I'm so glad that you did. What do you recommend to the candidates? How do they prepare good application? Do you recommend any volunteering? Did you have any volunteering on your CV? How should people go about looking for volunteering opportunities?
Once you're here, every day that you do not do something, someone somewhere else is doing, you know. They are utilizing that day to make themselves better. So just take that motivation, and there will be days where you feel low. There will be days where you don't feel like doing it. But you just have to, think of the bigger picture in sight and just look for everything that's available online. Pretty much everything in the US, if it is happening in person, it is somewhere up on the Google. So you just have to put in the right keywords and look for the volunteering opportunities around you, whether it's with Colgate, whether it's for Give Kids a Smile, whether it's for, county clinics that allow you to even volunteer. I decided to look for volunteer opportunities like that. But even when I was in India, I was really interested in American Red Cross. When I landed first in the US, on my way to home, I saw that, Red Cross is right there next to my place. So next morning, I went there and I was like, is there something that I can do? And they were very sweet. They told me how to apply. I did the live scan, I did every check, and then within like 20, 25 days, I got matriculated to start working as a blood donor ambassador at the Red Cross,
Mhm.
which I'm still continuing to do because I really love that thing. And it's very, I would say it's very intellectually motivating. You get to meet so many people from such different age groups and diverse professional backgrounds.
Mhm.
Like you never know who you're gonna meet at Red Cross. It's that great a place. And that's something I did. And then there was this one another thing that was very close to my place called Second Harvest of Silicon Valley. It's a food sorting group. So I decided to pick up a few shifts and I met a lot of teenage students who were getting volunteer hours. And that's how I got to know, okay, this is what kids do here. This is what people do for, their volunteering. And I made a lot of friends through that as well. And I am interested in teaching. So, a third thing that I did was I decided to tutor for Reading Partners Silicon Valley. And I used to go in person to tutor grade 2 to grade 4 students who are like 6 months to 2 years behind their classes.
Mhm.
These are students who come from underserved backgrounds where the families do not have the time or just to give that child the care that they need. And sometimes they lack in their education because of that. So we would just go and help. I used to meet so many different college kids who were doing it, and it was a great experience. And now it goes on online. It's based out of LA now. Even until a few weeks ago, I was doing that. So that was also one experience that I did. In between, I did try for Habitat for Humanity because I was in the constant search of, doing something. Because while I was waiting for these invites, sometimes you don't get to hear about a single application for months.
Yes.
Now, there are two options. Either you make a sad face and sob about it, or you buckle up and try to add as many things as you can. So the next time you are applying to a new school that opens up, they're like, oh my God, this candidate did a lot of work. So I think I went on with that, that bullseye goal that I gotta do it. I cannot be at home. So I tried working for Habitat for Humanity. I went there once or twice. I liked it, but then because I had already committed to these places that I was going to earlier, I continued with them for moving forward. And yeah, other than that, I was volunteering on my own time with other associations as well.
Yeah, you said this very rightly that candidates they apply in March and then till December they have no upgradation on their application.
Right.
Just wait for the schools to get back to them. And when you'll apply in the next cycle, the schools will be able to realize that from your application that there's no upgradation between March till December.
I think that was something I really worked on, and I feel like the kind of friends that I made along the process, I realized that unless you are proactive to do something new every month, even if it's one CE program that you can do, just one, do it. No matter how hard it gets for you on those days, just show up. Even if you don't like it, show up. You never know who you meet through that process.
So since you talked about CE courses, how valuable are CE courses on the CV?
I feel like schools do not necessarily look at what's paid and what's not paid. They really look forward to your efforts. I did plenty of free courses. Very few of them were paid. So the ones that I could actually pay for, because at the end of the day, you also have to look at your pocket. If I am applying to 21 schools, sometimes I do not have the budget to go all out and spend $1,000 on a thing. But at the same time, if I know that something is coming up in the later months and I can save up for that, so meanwhile, I can do these courses which are free. So UCSF offers a lot of free courses. There are other schools that do that. UoP also has a lot of live webinars, and you don't necessarily have to be there in person. You could do it at the comfort of your own room and, just attend a CE course and get to learn something new. And because I was an endodontist, I decided to go for other subjects because now that I am going into general dentistry, I wanted to be updated about the things that I had forgotten about. So I was attending oral surgery, orofacial plane, and then sleep medicine. And then, at this I used to decide that, okay, these are the paid courses that I can do. So this is the amount of money that I need within the next 6 months. And I would start saving as per that. And this was besides my applications. So I would save up and then I would pay for that one course. And that's how I did it. Just did not go for each and every course. I just did what I could. But one thing that I made sure of was like you do a free course or a paid, it doesn't make a difference. It has to be the constant effort. I did save up a little bit. And then, when I was in between, I was like, even if I'm getting the invites, they are not turning into an acceptance. Something here is lacking in my profile. And I don't know what will turn up. But then I decided to go for SmileCon in New Orleans. That was an expensive trip for me to have, but it was 2 days and 10 CE courses. So it wasn't really about the CE courses. It was about the experience, the networking, getting to school booths, and trying to talk to more and more people. And as much as the schools are looking into your profiles, you also have to look at what schools you like.
Yes.
And that only happens when you go out of your zone to see the schools.
That's why it's very important to know which school does your profile fit. You have
Yes.
to align with their goals. I have been asked often, and I would like to ask you that why did you not apply into endo residency programs and why did you rather chose to go for DDS?
I would say two things. One, being a specialist here in the US really limits you in terms of your practice, and it doesn't really open your portals as much as you would want. In India, if you're an endodontist, you can probably do everything and endo. Here, it's the other way. One, you're not licensed in every state. Second, you really need referrals from the local dental, offices for them to be able to reach out to you and refer their cases to you. And at the same time, you can only be restricted to that branch. For me, I was more keen on, getting my hands on skills improved for every other branch that I liked and I had ignored in the past 3 years. I felt like that was a do-over I get. And I can still do endo, but it's just that I wouldn't go so deep. But at the same time, if it lets me do everything, I'll be more than happy to. And another thing is that, there are more seats to contest for. If I have to be practical, then that's the truth. That's the honest truth. So that was one thing. And yes, I did, think of it that maybe I could apply, but, that wasn't my first plan.
Right. Yeah. I think it does make sense that if you are not a green card or a citizen, then
Right,
it gets even more challenging and you have even more limited seats to apply for in the past cycle. So that was also
right.
my thought process when I was applying. Okay,
Yeah.
so UOP still to send out invites. Can you give some recommendation as to how should people who get invited prepare themselves for the interview and what is something which the school looks at when they're interviewing someone?
I feel like, I would say it with full confidence for University of the Pacific that, if you get an invite from them, and big congratulations to you. You've already made it through thousands of applicants. So they know that you are the best of best. And it doesn't necessarily come with a 4 GPA and like a 120 TOEFL score. It's not that. It's your holistic profile. They know you're good. They appreciate that. Now, what they want to look at it is you as a person. They are not looking for you to say the answers that, literally Chat GPT these days is preparing for you. They only want to get to know you. You don't have to be perfect in speaking your English. You don't have to be perfect in using your vocabulary. You just have to be honest. The whole interview experience at UOP, it was a very like charming conversation. It was something that I was, intrigued into. And I did not even realize when it was, over my interview time and we were still talking. And I had the best time. And I think every single person who interviewed will say the same. So that's the charm of University of the Pacific, that every person who enters their doorstep and, leaves with the same smile they came in with.
I would say the same thing about University of Washington. And when I came here, I decided that, this is the school I want to be in. So I'm so glad, even if the whole process of applying is so strenuous and intensive, still, it's all worth it in the end. You also had acceptance from Touro. So,
Yes.
and you did get a brief stint of experiencing life at Touro. How is Touro as a school? And because it's just last year they've started taking a huge number till last to
Right.
last years they only had about four candidates which who they accepted. So how is the New Mexico campus? Have you visited the New Mexico campus?
So I'll give you a little, background about how I applied to Touro. So Touro's application is probably one of the simplest to apply with. They don't really ask for a lot. Whatever you've already put on Capit, you can apply with the same. So that really makes your first job easy. The second is for you to see when to pay for supplemental if there is any, and if there is anything else that is required, they let you know. Touro as a school is very proactive. They will give you the complete guideline. The interviews were like so, they were like so homely. My interviewer was so kind. The conversation was so such smooth flowing. Tell me about yourself and tell me about the things that are not there on paper. They really didn't want to know me from what I had written on Capit. They really wanted to know me as what I am besides that. And, things that I had not, thrown some light on, or I didn't get the opportunity of throwing light on. And then they wanted to know what I wanted from Turo, because they really want to know that am I applying for the right reasons? So that was something I saw during interview. And then we had a bench test. The bench is almost a week long. It's one of the hardest bench, I would say, because it takes a lot of patience to endure that week where you think that every day is a make or break day. But I think their faculty is so kind, really, helpful. They will come and literally, hold your hand to pull you through those 4 days. And, even if the bench is long, it's one of the best experiences you will have. The kind of people you will meet. They select with a very open mind and an open heart. They're not looking at people, with masters or anything. They're just looking for the right people who fit in their group. Once we went for their bench, that's when we got to know on our last day that, okay, this year Touro has more seats and they're going to probably take about, say, 30 people. And so 28 of us were decided to go to the Albuquerque campus, which is a new one. At the Albuquerque campus, there is only D3 and D4. There is no D1 and D2 at Albuquerque. It's only for clinical practice because Touro's traditional DDS batch seats are now double. They have gotten that approval in past September. So now that they have like almost the strength of two batches and New Mexico doesn't have a dental school, that's why they decided to open this new campus there. And it's like a world-class facility. If you look at the pictures, you will be amazed at how beautiful a college can look like. And also the smell of new chairs, new instruments, new gadgets, that fascinates you. Also, Albuquerque is cheap. So that's a big, plus point there. What you might not even dream of in California, you can get that for half the amount in Albuquerque. So that was a great plus thing to have. And our orientation was in New York with the traditional batch. That's where they tried to integrate us all into, the same cohort. And we got to know a lot of our partners. Like we had our sim clinic buddies. So they were from the traditional batch. We were not paired with each other. We were paired with fellow D3s because D3s were going with us to Albuquerque, and this was the first batch. Usually, what you would expect is to pair up with a D4, right? So here, because it was a new school, a new batch, they decided to pair us up with D3s, and already started the clinic. And a lot of my dear friends are now there because at the time I had not gotten my UoP acceptance. I was continuing there. So that was like an amazing experience. Their faculty is the sweetest. If they can, if there is one thing they can do to make your life easy, they will do it without a blink of an eye. And I think that's what you need. That's what you realize after coming to the US, that how different the school system is.
Yes.
Even if it's academically heavy, you're working with the right kind of people to get through that stress.
Where we come from, we like from right out of 12th, we got into dental school and we didn't get any kind of grooming in the other subjects and everything. We've always been dentists.
Like we've never experimented with different professions, and now that we come here, we find everybody from every profession, and now they're into dentistry.
Another misconception which people have about UOP in general is that they call a lot of masters or, like US masters, like MHA or MBA. Is it something you've noticed or is it true with your batch?
I think it's not really true. There are people with masters, there are people who are freshers, there are people with 10 years of experience who had not even, thought of practicing dentistry a decade ago, and now they're back at it. It's a diverse pool of applicants. It doesn't really matter on how much of a US master's experience or a clinical master's experience from your country you have. It's the intention with which you are applying. They really look at the efforts that you have done to apply for that program in that cycle. So if you're applying again, I would say don't carry the baggage of what you've had in your past. Yes, if it is a constant effort, they are going to see that. But at the same time, not having a master's or just being a dental school graduate doesn't make you any less of a candidate. It gives you the equal opportunity as anyone else who, has done master's or has like 20 years of experience. We're all the same.
And how much do you think schools look for diversity in when they select people? Is it a more fair way of looking at the candidature that who performs well in the interviews or the bench exams? Or do they try and make the batch more diverse?
I think of all the schools that I've interviewed with, my experience with UOP and Touro has been one of a kind where I felt that it wasn't really in a way to push onto the fact of diversity. It was more onto like getting the right fit for the class, the right kind of people. It wasn't like if you have a master's or if you are from this certain country and because you're the only one from that country, you'll get in. It was more merit based. It was based on what they were looking for in their candidates. Nationality, yes, they have to look at it at some point, but it doesn't really take away your chances. It's just the kind of effort, and sometimes things might not go well a certain day, but you have to believe that, with a different school on a different day, it will, and nobody can take away your chance.
And how do you suggest that candidates should prepare for the bench exam? Did you take a bench course, or do you suggest that how important is a bench course, and is it enough to continuously practice at your home setup?
I would say that, my first bench invite was, I would say, 7 or 8 months after my master's. So if you would look at it from the outside, you would say, oh, you just finished your clinical master's. Your handwork is great. But the fact is that it's not. Even when you're working at your own practice and you don't come to office for 3 weeks, once you come back, your hand shivers for 2 days. You still have to find that groove. And I think it takes a little bit in you to accept that. So, yes, you might come with a lot of experience. Yes, your handwork may be great, but because you are in a different country, things are done differently here. Going in for a bench course, even if you're great at everything, it just sets your mind into the right perspective. You have to be able to evaluate yourself the way a person who is evaluating your bench prep evaluates you. And that only comes when you go out of your comfort zone. Yes, it's a lot of money, but isn't that what you're here for? If you want to make more money, you have to invest in yourself. And also, if nothing, you network. Once you go for these bench courses, you will see 10 candidates in the same batch as you, and they are all different. They are so unique. You speak to all of them, and I can give it to you in writing that you will have 10 volunteer organizations that they might be working for that you've never even heard of. And that's a great way to learn. And you keep in touch with these people, you get to upgrade yourself as well. And I went to Dr. Duggan, and that was after my first bench test invite. I decided that, I really have to get things right. And if I really want to do that, I need to do it in the beginning of my preparation. So I spend the rest of the year in the right direction. I am not, just, it's like you can't be just blinded by what you already know. You have to learn. And when I went there, I realized that, the burrs are different. In India, I learned cavity preparation with diamond burrs. Here, I was given 330 and 245 and 55. And I was like, oh my God, what's this? I never had carbide burrs. They are so slow for me. They don't make the same smooth surfaces as those burrs did. And that was a big change for me. So that's something I learned there. My preps on the first day of my bench course and my preps on the last day of my bench course were really different. And I say it with like the utmost gratitude that, if I had not done that, maybe I never would have gotten that acceptance from Touro after a week-long bench a year later. So even if I didn't get in through that first bench before which I had gone to the bench course, I continued practicing. I constantly did it. I used to keep telling myself, and I used to come back from work and be really tired, but I was like, no, I will do just one prep, one good prep, and I can sleep. But I have to do that one. So I continued doing it. On some days it was really hard. It used to make me tear up that okay, nothing is happening. Why am I even practicing? Maybe this is not the right branch for me. But I think it comes with the support of your family, your spouse, that you continue doing it. And I continued. And I think that was something that actually got me to a school. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of candidates will have this question, that where did you find your motivation throughout this process? Because I know that a lot of days we feel very down and we feel lost because we are like waiting for schools to, send us emails, and a lot of times we get impatient and very disheartened. So what did you do during that time to keep up with your spirits and to stay motivated?
I think one thing for you to keep yourself motivated is to find that support from your family first. You have to look at the bigger picture. Things don't happen until you believe they will. I think in the beginning of the cycle, I was very nervous. In between, I was this toxic, negative person who thought that the world will crumble if I don't get in. And by the end of it, I was like, I have put it out in the universe, and now it is for the universe to give it back to me. And that just happens eventually. You have to surround yourself with the kind of people who tell you that you will make it. Not today, maybe tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then the day after. One day doesn't determine who you are and your abilities. It differs every day. doing your best looks different every day. So you have to be a constant believer of that. And I think I did that every week, that on Fridays, I would give myself the grace time. I would go out, I would dress up and, forget about the world and be like, this is my own space. I did what I had to do for the rest of the week. Friday night is my night. I am going to give this time to myself. And you have to give yourself constant breaks. Do not just look onto the people who are with you and they get in before you and feel like, oh my God, they got in. I am, in a way, maybe my profile is better. Or maybe they had more experience, so they got in first. Don't look at it like that. Surround yourself with the kind of people who tell you every day that it's okay. It will happen. And that's about it. I think that's it. You really don't have to do too much.
Another thing I would like to ask, how would you describe one day at UOP? I mean, how does your day start and how does it end?
I think, the first quarter is really heavy in general, and that's with every school. Since UOP is a 2-year program, it's very like rigorous and condensed. So we usually, get to school at like 7:45 because 8 a.m. is when our lectures start. We usually have like an hour-long lecture, and then we are mostly in sim lab or in the clinic. Like we've already started doing the head and neck exam, the oral diagnosis on each other, and we're already there. And it's just been like 3 weeks since we actually started after the matriculation. So UOP is like they're all in. They're right there to get you into the clinics. And at the same time, you spend like, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we spend the whole day in sim lab. So you have a lot of work in the sim lab too, but at the same time, they keep you happy. There are so many events that go on. So that is something, and that is also an everyday story. So that's my point of saying it here. And then by the time I come back, it's like 7, you know, it's not that the school runs until 7. The school gets over at 5. You have your own time, but that's when I'm like, looking after what I have to prepare for tomorrow, if there are preps that I have to work at, if there are quizzes that I have to complete. I try to finish my work off school at school so that when I'm home, I'm able to focus on what I have to study, what I have to read. Is there a quiz tomorrow? So that is something that happens. And at the same time, you have to give time to yourself. You have to take that break where you tell yourself, it's okay. You're there. Yeah.
So the struggle does not get over with just getting into the school. The school
No.
itself is intense, and yes, I do agree to it because even my first 6 months here were like really intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now we have a breather now since we've entered clinic. But yes, though rightly you mentioned that UOP is a shorter course, so it is probably more intense. And the schools which are longer, they probably give you more grace with time and like
Right.
more time to settle in and they transition you into clinics slightly more slowly as compared to a 2-year course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually how it is. And I think all 2-year programs are in a way very condensed, but at the same time, I would say just take it one day at a time. It is a good problem to have. After your capit cycle, you will feel like I have the right kind of problems now. So it's okay. Take it slow, take it easy. You got it.
And I'm so glad that we ended on this note because, yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of candidates are looking for motivation currently. Thank you for being so gracious to give me your time for this interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like you've also been a big part of my journey. We were preparing at the same time for INBD. We both applied at the same time, somewhere around that. And I think I spoke to you. It was around December when I had not made it in. And I was like, now what do I do? I really have to look at next cycle. And yeah, things happen. It takes a while. And I'm so glad that, few months later, and here we are, both at our dream schools, and it feels nice.
Thank you for being so gracious to give me your time for this interview.